when I was approached to do that screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't believe in flying saucers. When I saw the material, I was more than happy to do the screenplay, but then it never did materialize.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you both very much.
Okay, Marie.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
And, Bruce.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, I was calling because I have a second book by Colonel Stevens, and I wondered if it was possible to write to the original addresses on the books to obtain more books, or due to his situation, is it impossible to get his other
I
books?
think the best thing to do is to write to those addresses. His daughter would be glad, I'm sure, to answer your letter and advise you as to what's available.
Okay. And I had one other question, and that was that in reading these books, and I wasn't sure if I quite followed your answer to the other girl, but there seems to be a lot of information that wants to be, that the Pleiadians want to, a lot of things they want to say, and I wondered if those things will be coming out in time.
Well, we hope so. As I mentioned earlier, we've had our priorities, and there's just, there's only so much you can do in a 24-hour period. And obviously, it's very expensive to continue an investigation like this. In fact, we more or less terminated this case as far as investigation in 1982 at the beginning. But we hope that eventually, in the next 3 years, there'll be a lot more information appearing on this case. One, and hopefully, will be the contact notes. Another will be this mainstream book, which will cover more or less the inside story. It's being done by a very qualified and very talented investigative reporter. And it should be a very, very, very interesting reading.
I think one of the things to bring up is that your involvement and Wendell's involvement was primarily into the investigation of the case, the validity of it. And that took precedence in your mind.
Totally.
And then the wealth of material that is coming out from Billy Meier, presents a problem for us over here in that it's in German, and it is costly to translate that into American. I know that when Edwin Slade was over there, that this is one of the things that they want to get done the most, is to have those contact notes translated into English, so that we can have those over here, because there are some very powerful things that are said in them.
Yes, and if I might add, once you read Wendell's report and the documentation and his approach to it, and the tests that were done, the entire book is stating a case, but now that the case is stated, I'd like to see what it's being stated about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I do very much appreciate all that you're doing, and the other thing that I wanted to touch on, but apparently Lee doesn't want to go into it, was what Colonel Stevens is doing now, or what he'll be doing in the future.
Well, he's writing out his current problem, and he has a lot of plans for the future.
And he's in very good health. He's in very good spirits, and
writing like a banshee.
And we haven't heard the last of Wendell. Okay?
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Speaked in the first caller when he said he was wondering about what the message the Pleiadians had for us and what he was giving to Billy. Well, I have been corresponding with Billy Myers, and I have something in a letter. I will just read a portion of it to you, which I think might be very helpful. This was December 28th, 1983. I asked in my letter what I could do to be helpful to help this world out of its mess. And he says, you ask what you can do, and the answer is very simple. All the protests and demonstrations will come to naught, because humanity cannot be changed as a mass. But the change for the better must start with each individual. And if you can change yourself away from a materialistic way of thinking toward a more spiritual way of life, and affect the persons around you, then you will have done as much as can be expected of you, of anyone else. All the best wishes for the future. Sincerely. I thought that would shed some light on what is expected of us.
Right on target, too, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is.
I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you heard this, Eleanor, but in Beamship, the movie footage, Billy talks about balancing
Yes.
the material with spiritual.
Yes.
And that sort of sums it up, too.
It certainly does. Well, it's been a great privilege to talk with you again. And when you see Wendell, give him our very best from David and Eleanor.
I certainly will. Thanks for calling.
And much to both of you.
Thank you very much, Eleanor.
You're
Appreciate
so
that.
welcome. Bye-bye.
And for sharing that with us. I'm Bill Jenkins. With me is Lee Elders from promising them that we would play a little bit more of the audio tape that we played a little bit earlier. And I want you to hear the sounds of the Pleiadian spacecraft. Now, the sounds seem to be real, and what we are going to hear is in the control room of one of the sound laboratories here in town. Which one was it, Lee?
It was the Excalibur Studios.
Excalibur Studios.
North Hollywood, I believe.
So you'll hear the sounds, and you'll hear the comments of the sound engineers, who are fellows who know exactly what they're doing and what they're hearing, and also what they're seeing on their scopes, as this sound that was recorded by Billy Meier on a Philips tape recorder, as I recall, on an occasion, and their excitement and a bit of perplexity about what they are hearing and seeing is quite evident. So let's listen to that for a moment.
There's probably a lot of changes that you've got on the spectrum analyzer. What is it telling you?
Okay, let's pick a point here on the screen. Let's pick that point there. You see how the level of that point is changing? It's going up and down. That one point on the one line on the screen here is one frequency, and the whole screen is, you might say, a composite of a whole range of frequencies, all the way from very low up to the top of the audio range. And a pure tone would simply show a peak. The line would be down the bottom here, and it would be straight peak up like that, if it was just one pure tone. But since there are many tones here, we get this pattern like this. And as you can see, it's not steady. It's changing. Which means the content keeps changing also in our tape, or the signal.
The only thing that seems to be any consistency, having consistency, is the amplitude modulation.
Yeah. If we look at an expanded view of the signal here, you see that variation? So like that?
Yes.
That goes on the signal all the way through.
It does?
Yeah. That's the only stable pattern, as far as I can tell.
Can you show the frequency of modulation, of amplitude modulation, by speeding up the sweep on this? Yeah, what does this mean when they're all together like that?
That means we have less of the other tones, we have more of the main single tone. Here you see it becomes
Now what we got, when they get all, you have a whole bunch on there at the same time, what does that mean?
That means you have several, or quite a few different tones.
Quite a number of them.
Yeah, you can see the little peaks here. Like, compare this now to what we looked at before with the one peak. And you can see how many tones there are there. It's quite a few.
This is probably one of the most interesting things about the tape, is that there are, what's this right now? Very, very many tones.
Yeah.
And they're all changing very fast.
For a moment there, we were looking in and we had three evenly spaced frequencies. See what that again?
Got them again.
Yeah.
Are you aware of anything that has this many tones and frequencies in it?
Well, there certainly aren't any